All
You're
right, so
welcome. Thank you for having me.
well, we're being joined by the incomparable Jennifer Riley Collins, one of the most esteemed guests we've ever had, with a resume that we'll put up against anybody, and quite an incredible story. From Meridian, Mississippi, Alcorn State graduate, 22 years in the U.S. Army, former director of the Mississippi ACLU. Former county administrator with Hinds County, a run for attorney general, and now owning her own business. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So we're recording this for our friends at Rosa Scott, Ridgeland High School, Germantown High School. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson, and also for our YouTube channel. So we're in the government and public administration career cluster, which you have spent your entire life in. And we have watched a little bit of your videos about your history and all the things that you've done for this great state and for our country. Even though we did watch about your background, we'd love to hear about how you all got started in Mississippi. And please tell us the story of why you joined the Army, because that is one of the funniest stories I've ever heard.
Okay, so very quickly, I joined the United States Army because I wanted to buy a car. I was a student at Alcorn State University and had not gone home for spring break. And when you go home at spring break, you line up your summer jobs, and I had not done that. And so I decided I'd join the Army instead. So, because I felt like if I joined the Army, I could get the down payment for a car and then be able to pay the car note by, through my drill pay. And so that's why I joined the United States Army. It's a crazy reason, but yeah, that was it. That's not a good reason to join the Army, but it was a tool that God used that led to 32 years, not 22, 32 years of military service. Best career ever. I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. And I'm glad that it's this governmental service, because I guess a piece of my resume, I probably should update my bio. I am now I still own my own company, J. Riley Collins Consulting, that I am very proud of. But I also am now the Chief Administrative Officer for Delta Regional Authority.
Wow.
And so I'm excited about that. DRA is a federal agency that supports infrastructure investment over 8-state region from Louisiana all the way up to Illinois and parts of Alabama Black Belt. So we're excited about supporting distressed and persistent poverty communities across this region.
That's incredible. Now, we want to talk a lot about your military service, but before that, you're from Meridian, Mississippi, went to Meridian High School, and you chose to go to Alcorn State. Obviously, it's the homecoming weekend at Alcorn State, so we definitely want to highlight HBCUs. So tell us about your Alcorn State experience, because I got ninth graders with me now. Ninth graders be seeing this later, and they be thinking about whether they want to go to college. So what about Alcorn State? What made you choose to go there, and what do they have to offer that these young people can gain?
So I will tell you, Alcorn State, Jackson State, Mississippi Valley, it's everybody's homecoming weekend this weekend. So go Alcorn, go Jackson State, go Valley. It is HBCU love. And that's what I have. I have HBCU love for all of these schools. I may actually slip over to Jackson State's homecoming this weekend instead of going down to Alcorn. But Alcorn, just like Jackson State, gave me a scholarship. Both of those schools gave me a scholarship and an opportunity at an education that, honestly, I will tell you, my sister was attending a PWI, a predominantly white institution, at the same time that I attended Alcorn State University, and our college experiences were not the same. I had instructors that literally yelled my name across the yard. Hey, Miss Riley. And I would, obediently run to see what my professor wanted, because that's what we do. We respect our elders. And I'll never forget Dr. Cotton saying to me, you do realize that you cannot get out of Alcorn State University without taking a class from me, because I was avoiding him with all my life. And but he knew my name. My sister was not having the same experience and almost did not graduate because she was just a number on that campus. And so I will tell you, that's the difference. That's the difference. We care. We know our names. We know our students' names. I learned a lot about my history that honestly we don't often get in our public schools here in Mississippi. Our history gets, for lack of a better phrase, whitewashed. Our history has not been written in the textbooks that are in our public schools. But at an HBC, you get that rich history. And so you get that grounding that helps you understand the intentionality that you have to have as you walk through this life, and the institutional barriers that you have to overcome. But it's okay, because in understanding that, you know how to overcome them. I tell my children all the time when they were small, that if we're going to Disney and a log falls in the road, you have to figure out, you're not going to say, I'm going to turn around and go home. You're going to figure out how to get over it, around it, or under it, because on the other side of that log is Disney, right? And so what you get at an HBCU, what you get in the family that is developed on those campuses, are those opportunities for the networks that help you figure out how to get over it, around it, or under it, but you do get to the other side.
Yeah, and then one thing that I always like to highlight, the president of Tougaloo this year made a great statement that I had never thought of, but it's really, it really rings true. She said, just because we're historically Black does not mean we're exclusively Black.
Exactly.
And then I had a speaker yesterday who also went to Alcorn, and he said that was the first time in his life he ever met anybody from Europe. He said he had a lot of classes with Russians. And the international population at Alcorn is incredible, and that was his first taste to really get to meet people from other countries, and that was at HBCU.
And I will tell you, HBCUs are great opportunities that allow you, not just for those students to come to us, but for us to go to them. And so you get on these campuses and you get involved in these study abroad programs where you have the opportunity to visit other nations and to be exposed to greater than your own neighborhood. And so, education is the door that unlocks opportunity. But I will tell you, going off to college is not for everybody, and I get that. And so what I would say to you is, I'm a person of faith. And so I can't, Ms. Spigot knows I always bring my faith into this room, pray and ask God to show you what it is that he would have for you to do with the gifts that he has given you, because he has given each of you gifts. And his word says, if you stir up your gifts, they will make room for you and bring you before great men. So begin to ask him, what did you give me and what do you want me to do with him?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great segue to what I want to talk about next, because you joined the Army and you said yourself you got sick of being Private Riley.
Yes.
But I think it's important for these young people to understand that military service in any branch, they see the stuff on TV and the movies, and, it's not just kick down doors, blow stuff up and shoot them up. If you want to do all that stuff, they can find a spot for you. But literally every job in the civilian world, you can get training for in the military, or even the trades. They need welders, they need drivers, they need mechanics. So yeah, you're right. Everybody is not meant to go to college, but the federal service to our country, that's your chance to, you can be stationed on the other side of the world. You can.
So you just said a great word, federal service. There are so many opportunities to serve this nation that are not even in uniform, right? So I'm going to talk about the military just a minute. It is a microcosm of America. Okay. So you get everything in one place. You get this crosswalk of cultures. You get this walk of jobs. So you get to, and you might say, I don't want to serve 32 years, 20 years in the military, but you can go to the military and you can learn a skill set that then translates. Okay. Cybersecurity is a real thing. So you go in the military and you learn how to become a cybersecurity specialist, and you do that for 4 years. And then you come out of the military and you make some god awful stinking lot of money. Okay. Working for these big companies that need cybersecurity experts, because the reality is cyber threats are real. Okay. Banking. You want to be in banking. There are finance people in the military. You want to be a truck driver? There are truck drivers in the military. You want to be a screw turner? There are screw turners in the military. I mean, everything that you need that everything that you encounter in the civilian realm, you encounter in the military, but you can also encounter that in other walks of the government. And the United States government is hiring young people all the time, and you don't have to be in uniform to get into the government. So I encourage you to look at all of these governmental agencies. There are so many opportunities, and I will say I have to give a plug for the Biden administration. The Biden-Harris administration has so many apprenticeship programs out there right now for young people to get these apprenticeships, so you can get in some of these workforce programs. These workforce programs will teach you, train you how to, broadband. You guys are in the Delta. You know the challenges that you have regarding getting internet access, where there's so many programs out there that will train you how to be a broadband expert, how to do the wiring. So there are workforce programs out there, apprenticeship programs that will teach you. And then you say, you know what, well, I don't want to spend 20 years working for the government either. It's a good career, but you still learn the skill set on the government dime that you can then translate to.
And that's a great point, because a lot of these young people are like, I don't know if my family can afford for me to go to college. Going to the military doesn't mean you're not going to college. You know, we have an alumni right now who's a member of the Navy, but he's also a student at Jackson State, and he said the Navy's paying for the entire thing. And also,
Navy will pay for it, government will pay for it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you mentioned the technology. The military has the highest, newest technology on the planet. And these tech companies would rather have somebody trained in that new technology than somebody who not necessarily that has a degree, because most military jobs are technology based. So you can get paid, not pay anything, and be making six figures after just a few years of technology training, and maybe get to live somewhere else in the country while you're doing it. So I know you are a big proponent of military service, as am I. If I had it to do over, that's what I would have done, just to get that training, because they're always looking for people that have the training, in some cases, rather than a degree.
And let me say, I didn't do it for 32 years because I had to. I did it for 32 years because I enjoyed it. I have friends that will be friends until God calls me home, that will probably come and salute me when I am, dead and gone. Yeah. That became my friends through military service. I travel to celebrate them. They travel to celebrate me in life. That's what you get in the military. You get people that are going to forever be your family. Yep. They're forever going to be your friends. And that's, it's just a different way of life. It really is. It's an opportunity to be exposed to something different. I'm not a recruiter for the United States military. It was just good for me. It was good for my sons. My sons have not chosen to serve in the military, but they did reap the benefits of my service and serve their communities, in their own ways. My oldest son is a administrator. He's an educator, so he's a principal in a public school. So we believe in service in our family. So.
Yeah, and that's just a tip of the iceberg for all the service you have done. Now, after the military, I know, and you said yourself you miss your military life, but after the military, you've held several government positions. You've been for a short time were the county administrator with Hinds County. You were the director of the Mississippi ACLU. You made history running for Attorney General in the state of Mississippi. So talk a little bit about what all these county and local and state governments do, because a big thing for me is, the media pushes all the federal, the president. And yeah, that's important. But it's also extremely important for these young people to know what goes on a local and state and county level, because not only are their jobs there, it's extremely important to know how their community is being served, because your county and local elections, to me at least, are even more so important than who you're voting for president.
They most definitely are, because they are your initial touch point, right? It is your local mayor that appoints the police chief, right? And so very often in our communities, unfortunately, our first touch point with the justice system happens to come through some police officer, unfortunately. Well, it's the mayor that appoints the police chief. So the police chief is appointed, but the mayor is elected. So when you're electing that mayor, don't just elect the mayor because they're popular or they look like Drake. Elect the mayor that is gonna that's gonna appoint a police chief that understands, this is the community that I'm serving, and that they are committed to service of the community, that understands the community. That's not just trying to throw all of our young men and women away. You want to make sure that when you look at your county levels, when you're driving along the roads, it's county supervisors who are responsible for maintenance of those roads. It's your city council who is responsible for the maintenance of roads in your city. But if you're in the county, it's the county supervisors. And so you want to make sure that you're electing people that are going to be good stewards of those dollars, so that things don't then falter. Everybody has seen on national news the fact that the city of Jackson, with almost 200,000 people out of water, that's ridiculous. Okay. But I can't lay it all at the feet of the mayor. Okay. Because the reality is that can got kicked down the road for a long time.
Big time.
Over generations, over administration of administration. Stuff don't break overnight. When you see that oil light come on in your car, go get the oil changed. Okay. So the oil light didn't just come on over here at the water plant. Okay. It's been coming on for a long time. And instead of going and get the oil fixed, they just been putting some oil in there. It's an analogy, but you know what I mean. So, get it properly fixed. And that wasn't happening. Administration after administration after administration. And so this is levels and levels and levels. But we do have to talk a little bit about what happens at the federal level. Well, let's talk about the state. Okay. Yeah, we hear about governors, right? Young people, be involved. Okay. And pay attention to what happens on the state level as well. Okay. I was watching Stacey Abrams the other night in her speech against the governor, and she made some critical, important comments. Okay. And she said, it's your governors who are going to protect young men, young women, and young men, your right to reproductive freedom. Okay. She's right. Because it's the governor versus the Supreme Court at this point. Okay. We're here in Mississippi. You better start electing somebody who's going to pay attention to you and not just to their political agenda. Pay attention. Make sure you're registered to vote. If you're 17 years old and you're going to be 18 before the next election, register to vote. Well, it's too late now if you're not registered. If you are registered to vote, make sure that you go vote on November 8th.
Yeah, and I have mainly 14, 15-year-olds with me now, but,
Okay. But they can be involved. Let me tell you what 14
absolutely.
to 15-year-olds can do.
Absolutely.
You can go canvass, okay? You can make sure your parents go vote, okay? You can help that elderly lady or a gentleman in your neighborhood if you have a driver's license and they have a driver's license. If you have a permit and they have a driver's license, you say, hey, my dear, I'm gonna drive you to the poll. I'm gonna drive your car and I'm gonna drive you to the poll so you can make sure that you can go vote. So you can do that because they have a driver's license and you have a permit, so you can drive them in their car to go vote. Okay, you can help out. You can go and knock on doors. In Mississippi, we don't have that crazy law like they do in Georgia. You can stand in line and help give out some water. Okay, you can go and help out at a campaign. So there are things that you can do to be involved right now. And because the reality is the decisions that are being made about who sits in offices right now will impact the outcome of what's going to happen to you before you get
Absolutely
the right to vote.
Yeah, and one thing, I've never felt as a teacher it was my place to sway anybody's political beliefs, and it never will be. But one thing I will always say is that every single person, when they are old enough, needs to register to vote and vote for someone, and they need to be informed on it. One thing, especially females have not always had the right to vote in this country. Minorities have not always had the right to vote in this country or in the state. Look at Medgar Evers. You know, that's one thing he canvassed for in the 60s and was killed for it. So people died for young people that were not white to be able to vote. People died for females to be able to vote. And, you know, God bless you. People need to vote for whoever they feel is best for an office, but you need to get your butt out there and get your butt in the polls and vote for someone. And that is so important. And, you know, like we said, people pay attention when I've actually heard young people tell me, well, I'll just vote when it's time for the president. You need to vote then, but there's other times. We have a midterm election coming up in November for
November 8th.
November 8th for our House Representative seats. And then the following year, we have our state elections, which will be our governor, lieutenant governor, and all the state offices. These young people need to pay attention to that. That's going to affect their lives so much, and they don't think about it. And they need to be informed, and they need, when they're old enough, to get in there and make sure they are voting for someone, because our government depends on it.
So those congressional races that are up and judicial races. So the judicial races that are up, you know, those are the judges that are sitting on the benches that decide if you have a matter that comes up before a judge, whether it's a chancery court matter, if you got a child support matter, if you happen to be the child that is the subject of a child support matter, if you're divorce issues, land matter. So that's what happens in chancery court. And then in circuit court, you have criminal cases and lawsuits where, you know, people are suing because somebody wrongful death or somebody, you know, a contractual dispute. That's what's happened in circuit court. So those cases, those judges are up for re-election on November 8th, as well as our congressional delegation. You guys are in 2nd congressional district. And so you have the Congressman Thompson versus whoever he's running against.
And some of the people that'll see this letter are in the 3rd district. So we do have some Thompson.
Okay. And then you got Michael Guest and Shawarsky Young, I think, is in the 3rd district. You know, so you have those congressional races, but what happens in Congress is Congress decides those appropriations that come down to the state. So the money that ends up coming to the state, a lot of we just came out of COVID, y'all. And so a lot of the money that came to Mississippi as a result of COVID came because we had congressional representation. So money that comes to school districts, I'm gonna ring you right back. Money that comes to school districts comes from Congress. So.
Well, I do have some great questions from the students I want to get to before we run out of time. And some of these are great. And these are all 9th graders. This first one, and we didn't mention this. This is Stephen Taylor. And he asked, what was your role in the military, or your MOS as it's called?
Okay, yeah. So I was a 35 Delta. Good question, MOS, military occupational skill. 35 Delta is a strategic intelligence officer. So for 32 years, I served as an intelligence officer in the military, had the opportunity to, well, it started out as a 35 Delta, was tactical all source intelligence officer. And then I became a strategic intelligence officer as I grew up in the military. And so I did everything from being a counterintelligence platoon leader. I was a detachment commander for a strategic intelligence unit, where we provided intel products to Defense Intelligence Agency in DC. And my last assignment in the military, had several along the way. But my last assignment was, I was the military assistant to the Assistant Secretary for the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs. In that job, I was responsible for overseeing the insider threat mitigation program for Army protection.
Wow, that's impressive.
Long time.
And I don't think people realize how high up that is. I mean, the Secretary of the Navy, the Secretary of the Army, that's a very high-ranking federal official. So that's very.
So I actually worked in the Pentagon.
Yeah,
my favorite job.
Yeah, I'm sure, and you made it all the way to the rank to colonel, and which is unheard of for females in the Army. So I know you're very proud of that. And you should be. This is Morgan Thompson, and she's one of our JROTC students. So she's with your friend and fellow Army vet Jennifer Francisco. And she asked, since you've been in this field for so long, have you ever thought about changing careers and getting to a different field?
So I did. I served 32 years in the military, but I'm also, so I remember I'm an intelligence officer in the military, or was, I missed the military so much, but I also along the way became an attorney. So I'm an attorney. I now own my own business where I'm a consultant. I consult with both governmental entities and nonprofits. And I use my skill sets that I learned as a strategist in the military and my critical thinking skills as an attorney to help advise these organizations that I support. I actually applied some of that even when I ran for office on, some of the policy positions that I took. So, yeah.
Now, this is a great one too, and we didn't really get to talk about this very much, but this is Javon Ray, and he asked, what inspired you to work with the ACLU, and how did that experience affect your business decisions?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so 32 years ago, remember? Well, more than 32 years ago now. But when I joined the military, I lifted my hand. I swore to protect and defend the United States of America from all enemies, foreign and domestic. And so that is an oath that I took then that I don't think that retired when I decided to retire. And so when I decided to pursue the opportunity at the ACLU, I looked at that as a continuation of that oath, to be very honest with you, because the ACLU mission is to protect the Constitution. And so because it is a legal organization, a legal and advocacy organization with the premise of protecting the Constitution and defending the rights of people, I considered it a continuation of my service. It is the same reason that I ran for Attorney General, because I believe in serving. It is the same reason that the purpose of J. Riley Collins Consulting is I do good. I help good people do good work for good people. It's all about service.
Absolutely. I mean, and you just had an unbelievable life of service. This is Taylor Jones, and she asked, what was the hardest part about being in the military, and was it a struggle for you at first?
So I was not an athlete in high school. I was a bookworm and was not an athlete in college either. So yeah, learning how to run and having to run 2 miles in a certain time was the hardest part. But once upon a time, when I was at basic training, something happened. We were on a forced road march, on a road march. And our drill, we had a new drill officer and he got lost, and we had these rucks and we were out there, and yeah, we had gone quite a distance, but something just clicked. And I realized, I said, I've been out here a long time humping this ruck. I can do this.
Yeah.
And when I realized, when you decide up here that you can do something, there's nothing that can stop you. And so I will tell you all, decide in your head that you can do something, and don't let anybody tell you you can't. And then everything becomes easy. And so I can now, well, then I could run 2 miles. I don't run anymore. I'll go for walks. I'm old.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I think a lot of of young people steer away from the military because they're worried about the physical demands, but they aren't there to kill you. They're there to get you in shape. So
they're there to hone your skills, right? It's all about developing discipline, and that is what you have to have in life. You have to have discipline about everything that you do. You have to make up in your mind that you're going to get something done. And so, and that's in everything, young people. So just decide, I'm going to get it done, and you're going to get it done. But you have to decide. And a lot of people are going to tell you you can't do it. Just, go mute those people in your head, okay? Even if those people are close to you, they might be your parents. You just have to say, you know what? I'm gonna tune the KYMS on you. Okay, that's keep your mouth shut. Okay, keep your mouth shut.
All right, I've
Okay.
got two more from the students. This is Modesty Carmichael. And she asked, when you were running for office, what was the biggest obstacle you faced being a Black female?
Black females.
Wow.
Okay. I expected, to be very honest with you, not to be really supported by white men. I expected white women to support another white woman, my opponent. I did not expect Black women to tell me you're coming across as an angry Black woman because I challenged a white man.
Wow.
And so that hurt. I probably still have a little trauma from that, to be very honest with you. But then I began to use it. And I start saying, because I would look at students like yourself in an unfunded education system, and I would say, I'm Black, I'm a woman, and I am angry. And then I would ask them, why aren't you? Why are you not angry when you see children being uneducated, when they should be fully funding education? Why are you not angry when you see a woman being laid in the ground and her daughter now going to be raised by her grandmother because a hospital got shut down because Mississippi refused to expand Medicaid? Why are you not angry when we have guns on our streets because we refuse to put in place gun safety laws? So I used it to my good. But yeah, that was my greatest challenge. But that's what you always do. You decide that something that's meant to break you, that you're going to bend it and you're going to use it.
Yeah. And before I get to this last question, that's a great point you made because, you know, in Madison County, we have just so many other resources that other parts of the state do not have. And I have a room full here of young Black kids that I don't think they understand the amount of opportunity that they've been given. When I tell people this, they think I'm joking. You know, Tuesday, all of our juniors in Madison County schools got to take the ACT for free at school.
Mm-hmm.
That's unheard of. And even me growing up, you know, and I went to Madison Central, I never got that growing up. So the opportunities that they have now in this school district is something they really, really need to take advantage of. And I just can't stress that enough about how lucky they are because everybody in Mississippi does not have these same opportunities.
No, everybody in Mississippi does not. We have some very, Mississippi is a persistent poverty state. Okay, that means that many of our counties have been below the poverty line for 30 years, you know, and that's a sad narrative around our state, about our state, but that's a fact. And so take every opportunity that is presented to you. Some people want to take the position, oh, well, they only doing that because we Black, so take advantage of it. Okay, because the reality is there are other privileges that you won't get. So take advantage of it, use it as a doorway, because the deal is once a doorway is cracked for you, it's your responsibility to bust that thing wide open and then occupy the room, take the seat at the table that is set for you.
Absolutely.
But it's your responsibility.
All right, I just got one more from the students, and this is a great question. This is Shunquez Harris, and he asked, what was the hardest part about your transition from high school to college?
Walking. I went to Alcorn State University, and I didn't have a car when I went to college. I did not have. Remember, that's why I joined the military. Remember that story, right? So back when I went to Alcorn, women were on one side of campus, men were on the other side of campus, but my first class was at the gym, and the gym was on the men's side of campus. And so I had to hump it across campus to the gym for my first class, and then back up the hill to my next class. And my professor would lock the door to the class so you couldn't be late.
Wow. Wow.
Well,
we're almost out of time, and I know you had to fit us in, and thank you so much for joining us as always. But before we go, you know, a lot of kids are going to see this later. A lot of young ladies, a lot of young people. We'll have some Asians, Hispanics, a lot of young Black kids, and I got young Black kids with me here now, and they're all going to face obstacles, especially in Mississippi, no matter who you are. but yet you're a perfect example of somebody that's come from Mississippi and done some amazing things on the local, county, state, and federal level, and just had an amazing career of service. So what can they do to get ready to face those obstacles they're going to face in their life?
Be determined, make up in your mind that nobody's going to tell you no. Bottom line, be beautiful, be bold, be Black, be you. Go be great.
That's awesome. Well, again, thank you so much. Jennifer Riley Collins, one of the most influential women in the state of Mississippi. Always a pleasure to have you join us. And I just learned something every time I hear you speak.
Thank you for having me.
All right. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.